Welcome, everybody. This is episode 14. You got with you Caspian and me, Eric. We are going over something that is kind of meta today, and that is using social, things like podcasts, your LinkedIn, as a means of selling. And what we've wanted to dive deeper into today is just like, why do we do it? How do we do it? Kind of our thinking behind it, and how you can use this to leverage and get more sales, get more prospects, get everything else. I, as always, am Eric Wiegand. I am the CEO and co-founder of Demonstro, as well as the owner of Anthro Labs, go-to-market engineering. And we have with us, as always, Mr. Caspian.
Yes, indeed. Caspian Lukey. I am a former SDR, former sales engineer, current account executive at Numeric. So I'm much more that kind of boots on the ground approach. But yeah, just live, love, laugh, all things sales, So it's, yeah, pleasure to be here today as per usual.
Dude, live, laugh, love, man. Enough tattoos of that out there.
Dude, I know. I gotta get that actually. I should get that like right under my neckline or something. But
I think you get in your chakras, you know?
there we okay. Because then I need 7 things to do, right? There's like, or I'm messing up. Someone who knows about chakras is gonna correct me on that. And please feel free to. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. Those that have the live, laugh, love also correct us. But okay,
Yeah.
why do we do this, right? Like, I think, again, this is kind of that meta layer of things of we're talking about what we're physically doing right now. But Caspian, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, to be, frank. And so I'd love to know, like, what was your initial push into it? How did you get into it? How has the
Yeah.
landscape changed? Like, give us kind of like the deep down.
Yeah. I mean, building a personal brand super, super interesting. And I think the importance of building a personal brand has only increased like throughout my time in sales. Uh, let's be real here. Let's be upfront. The vast majority of our lives are only moving more and more online, right? Like, I have had like my last 2 jobs, candidly, I have not, pressed an apply button anywhere for. People have just looked at my LinkedIn profile, right? Like and hopefully it's not breaking any rules, but like at Gong, I never submitted an application. I was just reached out to by a recruiter. And for my current role at Numeric, the CEO also just like I got connected with over LinkedIn. And so I think that is a really small example of how your online profile and like your personal brand really is becoming a living, breathing resume and then some, right? And so I
Yep.
think that um, just having that online footprint and being mindful of like how you are represented online is extremely important. And I can dive more into this. Um, I have not done quite as good a job recently of like being more consistent with posting, but there was a time when I was an SDR at Gong and I was posting every day. I posted every day
Yep.
for about a year and a half. I grew my following to over 15,000 followers. And I that absolutely changed my life and like changed my career. And I've had the pleasure of meeting people and developing relationships and friendships because of the brand that I built online. And I'll be upfront, I have not done as good a job over the last handful of years of continuing that. But I still benefit from those connections and those
Yep.
uh it has just truly changed the trajectory of my life and of my career. So, I
And
do it. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Uh,
and I was just gonna say, like, I feel like that's such a good example of, getting job options because you were posting and people saw it and people were aware of you. And I feel like from my perspective as like a founder, right, it's slightly different, because I'm like, okay, I want an awareness of who Eric is because that does a lot better than what the brand speaks about, right? And there's kind of like, and we can get into this later, but there's what you speak about as somebody doing commentary, and then there's your brand, the company brand or whatever that's just saying, hey, check out our new features and functions and values and blah, blah, blah. You can speak as an individual in a much better way about, what you think of the industry or what you think of current situation or whatever the case may be, where people start to trust you and understand you. Because when there's a logo, it's just a faceless company. And when you're kind of standing out there yourself, it's actually giving some merit to like, oh, there's a person behind this and this is what they think and say and whatever. And so that's just what I wanted to jump on is, I think that there's something to be said about this. And then, contextualizing that as a sales rep, it's kind of another step in the playbook that says like, okay, if I'm going to be on a one-on-one call before I talk to this person, I should probably know who they are, trust them, or whatever. So, in the same way that they might be doing research on the company, the product, the value, how it can help them, if they've seen you posting and they're aware of you because you're in the same space as them, you've already gotten yourself way further ahead than just the first time that they see you is when you pop up in their, LinkedIn messages, you DM them for something, right?
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I feel like, I don't know about you, Eric, but I feel like from time to time, I ask myself, like, why, especially when I was posting consistently, like, why am I doing this, right? Like, why am I spending time doing this? I'm curious, like, what has motivated you to keep going during some of those times where you may be asking yourself, like, why am I even putting together a post for today? Or, yeah, like what keeps you motivated when you
Yeah,
have
I think
priorities?
I think those thoughts every single day. Like, oh my God, this is just like taking time. I'm trying to think about this and like try to like articulate what something that happened to me that not only like applies to my life, but also applies to people who might be interested in hearing from me. Right. And like
Yep.
staying consistent, not just in the posting, but staying consistent in the things that I know people want to hear about. And I think the thing that's kept me going is I think just like anything else, just like your sales, like making cold calls or sending cold emails or like doing anything, it usually doesn't work the first day. It
Yeah.
doesn't work the first week. It doesn't work the first month. And then, maybe 3 months in, you get an answer. And then, those kind of things end up compounding and you never really know, like, it's impossible to get that attribution there, but, like,
Yep.
you can see that your results are compounding on one another because, um, it whether it's the algorithm, whether it's like, you have one person who starts thinking your stuff is cool and then they start liking or they start commenting or whatever the case may be. And then they share it with your friend, their friends, or because they're liking and commenting, their friend sees it and their friend is a buyer. Like it's like impossible to trace all this stuff back. But to me, it's like, nothing well worth it is not one without consistency. Even if it's, working out or whatever, like none of that stuff shows up until way past the point that you're like, what the hell am I doing here? So I think for me, it's just like that knowledge of it will work if you're doing it correctly. And just taking the stops along the way to ensure that you are doing it correctly or you have some method to your madness that is metriced or has some sort of framework so that you can test those variables and understand like, okay, like I wanted to send this message out there to the world anyway, or my thoughts on this, but like what are the pieces and parts that go into it that make it something that's worth reading or worth listening to, right? And obviously, you had just talked about it. You and I, at I think the end of last year, we chose let's do 100 days of posting on LinkedIn because
Yep.
I was kind of just dipping my toes in. You'd
Yep.
been on a long hiatus,
Yeah.
so I'd love to know like what you think about some of those aspects. Like there's aspects of accountability there. there's aspects of consistency. Like, what do you think it was the most useful stuff? And, and what do you think people can take from that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, generally, as it relates to, like, any part of content creation, and it's funny, like, as I say this out loud, I'm really giving myself this feedback because this is just how I saw success was consistency beats anything, right? Like, now it's not the sexy answer, it's not the answer that a lot of people wanna hear. It's not the answer that I wanna be telling myself, right? Like, each time
Hmm.
that because again, I was very consistent for, again, about a year and a half, and then I did not realize how much that streak motivated me. And again, for context, like, I was posting every day. I was posting, like, Thanksgiving, like, Christmas, like, the weekends, like, all every day, and it was just a habit. I always did it. I mentally allocated time for it. Um, and then I remember there was just one day in January 2024 where I was just like, "Oh, like, I just don't feel like it," right? And then I didn't post, and then once that streak was broken, boom, it is so tough. I did not appreciate at the time, and I wish I knew, but I did not appreciate at the time how much that would impact my motivation. And what I realized is, like, again, consistency beats everything else because number one, like, consistency helps you find your voice. When you are holding yourself accountable to writing every day, you'll find, like, what resonates with you, what you enjoy, like, writing or speaking about, and you also see what resonates with your audience. And I generally recommend people write content that at a minimum they enjoy, so that even if they don't get any likes, any reactions, they know that they enjoy
Yeah.
it themselves. Um, but then of course you'll find, like, what kind of, like, niches within what you enjoy talking about tend to resonate with your audience. And so you can, like, lean into that, right? And you can do experimental stuff. Um, I really just think consistency beats everything. Now, I will also say that, like, my experience having taken a couple years off is also that, like, the bar is definitely higher now, right? Like,
Yeah.
there is more. And it's funny because we were talking about this before we started recording. Um, I would say there is more high quality content out there, but also more than that, there being more high quality content is really a result of there being just more content out
Sure.
there, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
AI, right? Like, when I started, in 2022, it was, like, pre-ChatGPT, right? And so once that, like, I just think it's become easier and easier to have AI write posts. And again, it's like, it's stuff that I've experimented with in the past. I will say I've not ever found I think that, like it or not, and I'm not saying that you cannot have successfully inspired AI posts or, like, I'm sure, like, multiple people have examples of, like, AI posts that have that are authentic to their brand, that resonate with their audience, all that stuff. Um, I think generally people can tell when stuff is AI generated, and I think that generally the those type of posts just don't perform as well
Sure.
because they're just seemingly not as, like, they just don't often resonate with people. Now, it's not to demonize, like, AI, like, inspired or generated posts. I think if you can do that and you can do that well, like, more power to you. Um, I have generally leaned into humor as, like,
Yeah.
what I was success in my content. And I think that, like, continues to be an area that AI struggles with, right? Is there's, like, what AI finds funny is, like, haha, we are both fellow humans and have, like, hands, right? It's like, it just doesn't get, like, the punchline or a joke,
Yeah.
right? Or I should say, it doesn't necessarily have the same level of, like, nuance and stuff, right? And that's no diss to AI, right? Um, just trying to be real. So I think that what I've learned is consistency really is the most important thing. It helps you. It helps you understand what resonates with yourself, helps you understand what resonates with your audience. Um, but I will also say the bar has definitely been raised over the past several years. And whereas previously, when I was posting, for 100 days back in, like, 2022, I saw a noticeable, like, growth of my following, like, impressions, all that stuff. Um, and also, maybe my content was just better back then. I didn't see the same growth when I did that this year. And again, because I've now taken another pause from it, it's just something that like I continue to come back to. You cannot beat someone who does not quit. And so I just think consistency like remains top of mind for me in terms of like key to success when producing content. But that was a lot of like thoughts.
Yeah.
Uh I'm curious not only your reaction to that, but also like what are you posting? How are you creating the content that you are writing and that you're posting? Basically, like what and how are you posting?
Yeah. I think, I have a lot of sources to draw from, which is really nice. Because like with the Anthro Test Labs, like I'm dealing with a variety of different companies who are dealing with different top of funnel, mid funnel, end of funnel problems. And so like a lot of the conversations that I have with folks is like really good cannon fodder of like what maybe their industry or just like leads in general have to deal with. So that's like one really great way that I just like try and take my day and say like, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? And like, because I'm dealing with a couple different companies, like what am I hearing consistently across that board? And so that's like one avenue that like I'm able to pull from. The next one is just like Demonstro, like me being a founder there and dealing with those problems myself of pipeline, of, creating content, creating, lead flows through marketing. Like that gives me if ATL gives me the kind of breadth, this gives me the depth because I'm feeling it these problems are happening to me. It's not just something that I'm hearing secondhand and trying to help somebody deal with. And so I feel like between those two, I get a lot of good information. And then it's just stuff like I'll see other things like on LinkedIn or I'll see stuff on X, like Twitter, that is like the hot new thing or people are complaining about and whatever. And I'll have my opinions on it, right? And so that's a really good source where I pull that stuff where it's not necessarily like, okay, I'm just going to do that again, but like I might think very differently from the rest of the industry or conceptually like one of my businesses or one of my ways that I'm doing things, I realize because so many people are speaking one way that I think the exact opposite of that. And so it's kind of putting your 2 cents in there and not being afraid of, like, being wrong, or looking stupid or whatever. You just kinda go in there with, like, the information and perspective that you have, and, I'm a person who, like, I'm not afraid to be wrong, so if somebody comes in the comments and comes at me and is like, "You're wrong for this, this, and this," if all that's true, I'm like, "Yeah, like, you're right. Like, I never thought of it that way," right? And so I think that that's kind of like where I get my draw, and that's like what I end up posting. Um, and I will say, like, I focus on obviously, like, we're doing a podcast right now.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff that we're talking about ends up on the podcast, ends up on LinkedIn. But because I have like multiple brands, that also gets disseminated to those other brands and their kind of like thoughts and voices and whatever. And so, like, I'll kind of talk a little bit later how I use the like long form and stuff that we're doing here to create content elsewhere. And so, like, without giving too much away, it's like, there's different things that can be repurposed for other places.
Yep.
And the best way that you can do it is like so long as it's in your voice. But I'm curious because, like, Caspian, you've had obviously posting on LinkedIn. You're the meme king for a long time. um, you're doing a podcast now. You had YouTube videos. Like, what were your go-to places where you were like, okay, I want to get my brand, I want to get my face out there. Like, what did you rely on most?
Yeah. I think, for me, it was when I started posting, and I think that there's like a little bit more I can speak to from that regard. It was really documenting like the life of a salesperson, especially an SDR, but like through
Hmm.
the lens of kind of just kind of like making light of it, right? Like, especially being an SDR at Gong was an amazing experience. Like, I learned so much.
Yep.
And there were definitely high highs, low lows, right? It's like, I remember because at the time I was kind of coming from the B2C world where, I had been cold calling and stuff. But when I was at Fidelity Investments before Gong, I remember there was a day that I made 100 calls. I got 20 pickups, right? Crazy pickup ratio,
Yeah.
by the way. 20%, and I booked 15 meetings out of 20 pickups. I was like, awesome. Again, 20% pickup ratio, just unbelievable. And I
Yeah.
remember when I was at Gong, making 100 calls, getting 4 pickups, and booking 0 meetings, right? And so I think I just realized, like, damn, this is kind of tough.
Yep.
And I have always enjoyed kind of like poking fun at myself. And especially at Gong, I had the ability to like be kind of meta where I could joke about, myself, but I could also joke about like general, like what sales reps do. And then I could also kind of like poke some fun at my prospects, but not in like a rude or like a nasty way, but just
Yeah.
in a, in, in, in just a way that kind of like documented the everyday life. And so what was nice is I was able to come up with like my very role provided me with like such a rich context of like experiences to pull from, that I could just like roast myself, right? Where it was like, again, I had this meme where it was uh like me when I like book a meeting, it's like a dude dancing. I was like me when I book a meeting over the phone and then like send the calendar invite, and then it was like invite bounces, and it was like me unaware, like still celebrating like booking the meeting, right? And
Yeah.
I butchered the delivery of that, but what I'm trying to say is like
Right.
I was able to I was able to just like share my experience in meme form, in a really fun way. And like, again, it was like an absolutely incredible experience. But my life just like provided me with a lot of inspiration. And that still is the case as an AE, but I will say I really admire AEs that post consistently on LinkedIn because that is something that I've struggled with. Like when I was an SDR, I was able, especially as I got more tenured, to kind of like bring the actual time needed to hit quota
Yep.
down to like 2 to 3 hours a day towards the end, right? And it's not that I was sitting on my hands for the rest of it, but what it meant is like I didn't have to have stuff planned. I could just like come up with a meme or like a piece of content like day of. There was no planning that went into my content strategy. I just was like, what am I feeling like? And I'd put something together. I have not been able to do that, right? As an AE, I have so many more meetings. And so I like super, super, super kudos to like the Brian Lamanas of the world and the JC Pollards, who I know he's a manager now, but like, and other AEs that post consistently on LinkedIn. Damn, I am in the best way jealous of you and admire you. I just mean to say, like, you've figured out something that I have not yet. So,
Yep.
um, so that is a lot again of information. But yeah, that's something that I've found helpful. In terms of just like inspiration for what caused me to post, and kind of like what my general thought process was when it came to posting.
And I think the key thing that you said there at the beginning too is like when you think about the content that you're going to do, and I might have alluded to this earlier, without calling it out explicitly, is like you shouldn't be thinking about something that isn't happening to you. So, like, the best way to do it is, and this is what you said, is like document. So, document your life as an SDR, document the conversations that you're having with your prospects, document, what you're doing on the weekend, right? You've had posts of like that, that's just like, oh, I'm doing this. And some people will, attach that to, hey, this is what I think about sales because of, I just had a baby. But it's like, you know, you don't have to do that. You don't always have to tie it back to like what your thesis is. It's just like documenting your life and what's happening because that can basically connect in a whole bunch of different reasons. One can be, okay, you understand your prospects and whatever, but other reasons for that can be like, oh, you're showing yourself as a human. And somebody might connect with you and end up trusting you because they saw a post about, a place that you're going that is their favorite or like whatever. And that humanization that happens, that is just you physically just documenting what you're doing, whether that's professional or not, but can still have something that drives you forward. You just have to strike that balance of like, what am I trying to say? Who am I trying to say it to? How frequently am I trying to say it? If you do have plugs, like you're trying to sell stuff, how often am I doing that? Right. And just coming up with like these frameworks that you're using. And again, like I said at the beginning, so that you can test them to see like, at the end of the day, I'm still saying what I want to say, but
Yeah.
maybe the way that I'm going to say it or the way that it's going to be constructed will be easier to read or more interesting or my audience will resonate with it. And so it's kind of like playing with all those different things, right? And I think the key here too is like figure out what platform is your best way to do it. I mean, you and I, we post on LinkedIn for the most part.
Yeah.
I know very successful folks that, X or Twitter is like that's their way to go. And that's great, right? Like, cater your content to the platform. And, whatever's going to work is going to work. Just make sure that there's some, if you're doing it for professional reasons or you're doing it for career advancement, that there's some sort of trace back so that people know like, oh, this person is this person and you can get that back, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think in terms of like content, like let's break the fourth wall even more than we already have, right? Like we started a podcast. Talk to me. Like why'd you even choose to kind of kick off the whole cold rush movement and what got you excited about starting a podcast?
Yeah. I think for me, it was like two different aspects to it. I think the first one was obviously like, it's just fun. Like we've been friends before this and just we were having these conversations anyway. And so it can't kind of came down to like, hey, like maybe this is something that can just go on and as an added layer to that, right? Like we don't just have to post, like we can kind of get our faces out there and share little bit of knowledge that could help some people out. And honestly, also like get the pushback from folks to be like, we'd love to know real time, like what you think, if this sucks, if it's good. And you often get like the positive affirmation when it comes to like written posts. But unless somebody like vehemently disagrees with you,
Yep.
you're not going to get anything to the contrary, right? Like it's just like neutral or negative. It's sometimes kind of hard to tell. And so getting that feedback and having people, kind of give their thoughts is a big reason why I wanted to do this. And the second, which I think, right, this is like I think something that if you are like, I don't know if my podcast is going to be successful. I don't know if it's going to be monetized. I don't know any of that. One of the things that I was thinking about from the very start was like, how can I supplement my written content with something that is repurposed from something that I said?
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you where it's like, if you're just trusting ChatGPT to write your LinkedIn posts, it's like not going to work because it's not your thoughts. It's not your words. It's not your voice and like tone and cadence and like whatever. It's just not you. But what can capture that and what's sometimes easier is, you and I having a 30, 45-minute conversation
Yep.
and I can take those transcripts and, usually I don't use it for like a LinkedIn post, but if one of my brands needs something for like a blog post or something that's going to go out, what better way than take the things that I'm saying within this conversation and writing a blog post about it that can get posted up that let's be honest, like nobody's reading blog posts on company websites. That's
Yeah.
mostly for like your SEO and, GEO or AIEO or whatever it's called. So like it's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
that kind of stuff. Right. And so the stuff that I want to be my personal brand is out there and I'm, heavily involved with creating that and putting that out there and it's my thoughts and feelings, but I'd also like the other content to be my thoughts and feelings. I just don't want to sit there and write a really lame, boring blog post
Yeah.
that is, using keywords and stuff so that I get ranked higher. I'd rather use it in this context to pull from it. And so it's those two things of like, let me raise my brand and value, but let me also like have to spend less time in the minutia of like you have to post, 100 articles a week to, move the needle at all for your brand. It's like, well, let me just talk about it and split it into 5 articles and let's go, right?
Yep.
So, I
Massive.
mean, I guess the same for you, right? Like you covered, like, I guess here's the thing. You got into it at Gong, but
Yeah.
first, what was the impetus for that, within Gong to get you there? And then like, why'd you agree to the podcast?
Good questions on both accounts. So one, I do want to like squash one, I think like just misconception. I think people will see people at I think people will see on LinkedIn people at Gong posting and they're like, oh, Gong must have some mandate of like people post like da 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 da. That is not at all the case. I think people at Gong are just like generally pumped about sales. They just like kind of love the craft. And then they just attract people that like then tend to have the type of personality to post on LinkedIn, right? Like
Yep.
including me. And so what got me to post was actually I had done a couple of posts like in the summer, just like some fun, like this was my first summer as an SER, so summer damn, I'm dating myself, like 2022. And I like posted a couple of like kind of me things, and I was like, oh, it was kind of fun. And then I saw this thing called Brand 30, which was basically like a challenge where you could get an accountability partner for 30 days, and it was a challenge to like post consistently for 30 days. And that was August 1st, 2022 that I started that. And I did that. Um for 30 days. And then I was just like, damn, I like this. Like, it was fun. I want to just keep this going. And I literally just kept that going. Um, yeah, for the next like year and a half. And
Yeah.
so I just like enjoyed the challenge, like kept it going. And honestly, like, I do definitely enjoy challenges. Like I enjoy pushing myself and trying new things. And so, uh, when we were kind of talking about a podcast basically a year and a half ago, right? It was like beginning of 2025. We started talking about this. Uh, it seemed fun. It seemed cool. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I've never done a podcast before. And, um, or I should say I've never hosted a podcast before, but, subtle flex. But, yeah, it's been really fun. I've enjoyed it. And it's not without, it's like headaches, right? It's like, damn, if we're coordinating with a guest, it's like, shit, we got to coordinate schedules, got to do like a prep call.
Yep.
Um, and it's not without work, but it's been a lot of fun. And, I'm very, I'm glad, and I'm glad to kind of keep this thing going, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's kind of the thing is like if you have somebody, and I think it actually applies to both things. The accountability partner that you saw in Brand 30, that's the same thing that we started at the beginning of this year. I think we got into a groove where like we were just posting, so it didn't really matter. But like the first, I don't know, probably 45 to 60 days, like we were texting each other, like, I just posted, like, yeah, I did too. And it would be like, sometimes be like later in the night or like whatever, but like you, we got the stuff out. Right.
Yep.
And I think later on we started like doing it on a Sunday or a Monday and then scheduling those posts out because it was like, okay, we can't think of these every day because we're super busy and whatnot. But like still, it was there, right? Like we did 100 days, we went all the way through. I'm trying to just keep that on because it's worked, and some posts have gone well, and some posts are crickets, right? But that accountability, I think, is incredibly important in whatever you're trying to do, because it just holds you to a standard that often is hard habitually to start yourself, right?
Yeah.
Um, Plays of the week.
Yeah.
What have you got for us here, Caspian?
Yeah.
What's working?
I, yeah. I think in this term, in terms of plays of the week, I'll more just like kind of reiterate what has worked for me in the past, which is because I think sometimes when people will be like, oh, like what do I post? I don't even know where to start, right? And I think that like you don't need to look further than like generally your day-to-day life, and you can ask yourself a couple of questions like what's something that went well, right? And you can share that uh example of something that was really successful, whether it was like how you overcame an objection on a call, or how you closed a deal, or what led to XYZ specific success if you're not in a sales role. You can also talk about like what didn't go well, right? Like what did you mess up on, and what did you learn from that, right? So you're not sharing a success, but you're sharing something you fell
Mhm.
short in, and then what you learned from that, right? So I think those are two questions that are really easy. Like you could ask yourself, you could literally post every day by asking yourself one of those two questions.
Yep.
And that would be like a not bad content strategy. You can get even more successful by doing and leaning into what are called content pillars, which is more just like themes of things that you enjoy talking about. So like maybe you're like, I want to talk about sales and working out and bird watching, right? Like those are
Yep.
three content pillars, right? Sales, working out, bird watching. And then if you want to, you can layer in different subsets of those things. But I think that people often overcomplicate it. You don't even need content pillars to start with. Um, but I think that one, figure out like what are the themes you want to talk about. Those are the content pillars that are just evergreen places you can talk about. And then two is just ask yourself like, what's something that went well today? What's something that didn't go well today? And you could literally schedule that as your post for tomorrow, and you'd be good forever. Right. So that's what I have found most helpful. But what about you? What are your plays of the week? What's working?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with a couple of these. So, like, first is, be consistent, whatever, right? And it's not just like in the posting, it's consistency in like the types of things that you're talking about. You want to control the variables, as I said before. There's also some like steps that you want to do after you post that I think are incredibly important to getting that stuff out there. And so, like, you said pillars, I totally agree, right? Like, I have a framework of the way that I am putting stuff out there. So, like on Monday, I'm thinking the brand is Anthro Test Labs. Tuesday is Demonstro. Wednesday is like Founder Life. Thursday is Cold Rush and whatever topic that we have covered either in the past or is coming up. And Friday is kind of like my like life or, like my mess up, something funny, like blah, blah, blah. And I stick to that every week. But I wanna be clear, it's not like, let me promote Demonstro and, like, put a QR code on Monday. It's basically like, what did I talk about in my conversations with, like, prospects, clients, co-founder, like, whatever, related to that brand or see in the industry that's related to that? And so, my pillar there, it's just like and again, it's not even just like calling out, this is why Demonstro, blah, 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 blah. It's basically like, what is related to that that I want to talk about, right? And whether it's like a trend and we're the antithesis to it, or we're perfectly in line with it, or, this is what I'm seeing people using prospecting where I think that there's a better way. And that kind of applies for the whole week. And again, like the more you can control those variables, the better it'll be. And so like the topics will change, the pillar will stay the same, and maybe like the amount of sentences or, the construction of it will stay the same for a while, right? Just so I can test like, is it this or is it, something else that's making this perform better or worse? The next thing that I would say is like actually doing an analysis. Like you don't hold those variables for nothing. If you don't use AI or anything like that, a great way to do it is to export your results, and just keep a log. Like I basically keep a Google sheet of all the things that I've said when I've posted, blah, 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 so that like there is a record of the days that I'm posting, the times that I'm posting, the things that I'm posting, the pillars that I'm filling out. And I can overlay my results for the month so that I can see like what's doing well, what's not, what should I stick to, what should I deviate from. And so all of that combined means that like I'm improving stuff so that, I'm giving something valuable to people that's still related to my life. And I'm doing it in, a scientific fashion, if you will. And then I think that the last part of that I already talked about before, but take your transcripts, repurpose them for something else, right? Like if you're doing a podcast like this, like don't let that long form content get wasted. cut it down into shorter videos and post on TikTok. I still haven't done it, but I know I have to, you know.
Yeah.
But what I have done is taken some of our short form stuff and I posted that on LinkedIn to try and drive up viewership for Cold Rush or remind people of an episode or tease them, right? And so these are kind of like all different things that, I'm by no means a master, and my engagement would prove exactly that. But consistency, man. I'm like, there is a method, and it has gotten far better than it was, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like going through these hurdles and trying to understand it and trying to be better every day.
Yeah. No, you and me both, man. And I think, well, that leads us to sales that doesn't scale. Like, what are things that you've done that, yeah, really like pop off and maybe don't
Yeah, I would
won't-
say like, every so often, um, I will do a post that's like kind of unhinged just to
Mm,
see like what'll happen.
mm,
So actually, like, I don't know if you saw this one, but like, was it last Friday or whatever? I went in on Stanley Tucci
mm.
on a post because it was one of our hot takes from, I think, last episode or the episode
Yep.
before that anyway. But basically I just like listed out my hot takes of like a bunch of the different episodes, right? And I got the most eclectic group of people who were liking that post, where it's like people I know from like high school and like VCs and strangers. And I would say it doesn't scale because, like, I don't know, I was just like, screw it. Like, let's just like toss some crazy stuff out there. And like, I don't want to necessarily be known as like a crazy person, but I think once in a while it's just fun to just like really create like a chaotic post or just, whatever, just like make it weird and see what happens. And so by no means would I say scale that, but I think every once in a while, just like go off, go off the rails, see what happens. I think in a lot of ways, like the worst thing that can happen is just like nothing happens, right? And so create some controversy, create some, I don't know, some ripples in the water. But yeah, that was that was the one that I could think of. But what about you?
Yeah. No, I love that, and I think like sometimes those like really authentic or unhinged or however you like the ones that you don't put the guardrails up on can sometimes have the best outcomes. And yeah, I think like I mean, for me, ones that haven't scaled, but I enjoy doing are like some of my videos. I've done a couple of like kind of goofy sales music videos, and I do not currently have as much of well, I don't want to say I don't have the bandwidth because that's not entirely true. I haven't prioritized it in the same way that I did when I was an SDR. But you know, one of my probably like the proudest post that I've ever made was my like ghosted video, and
Yeah, it's
even
great.
Corporate Bro commented on it. And I remember I DM'd him like immediately afterwards, and I got like an automatic response being like, "Hey, I'm no longer checking my LinkedIn inbox." But I was like, "Damn!" But he still commented on it, which I was like, "Okay, that's it's I could die happy now." So, yeah, I think for me, like some of the videos I've made have been extremely fun, but take a non-trivial amount of work, right? Like, you gotta like write the song and then I like have my own recording equipment. So record and then you edit it and then you come up with the idea for the video, then you record the video, then you edit the video. It's like a lot of stuff that
Yeah,
I'm doing all of those things, right? So I think people are like, "Oh, haha, fun song." And it's like, yeah, the song doesn't like necessarily take too much time to write. It's all the other stuff that goes into it, right?
yeah,
But they're incredibly fun. And I had a chance well, I'll tease this. I don't know to what extent I'm able to post this. It wasn't necessarily a music video, but I was able to step back into video creation land fairly recently, literally last week, and had the chance to record, direct, and edit a video, which was really really fun. And so maybe I'll get a chance to post it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure, but it was super super fun. So I love that stuff.
nice.
Um,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but I think that's a good segue to bring us to hot takes. Uh, what are we getting into? What do we got today? Who needs to be watching out? Stanley Tucci and who else?
Yeah, I know. I see. That's the thing. I feel like you've had some food ones recently. I've been going like, left, right, and center on some of these. So I wanted to bring it back to food because I've been thinking about this a lot. I think that I'm a big sauce guy, right?
Mm,
Like if you have something like a good sauce, whether it's like made, whether it's like store bought, whatever, but like everything is better with sauce. I think we can all like admit that.
mm,
Most overrated sauces of all time, I think ketchup and ranch. I think that they are overused by so many people and like people swear by it. It's like, I need ranch on my pizza and I need like ketchup on my burger or like as the catch all for your eggs or like whatever. Now, ketchup only belongs on fries, nowhere else.
mm,
Literally nowhere else. And ranch belongs like maybe in like the ingredients of something much larger,
mm,
or it belongs in the trash. I think that they're overrated. I will say the one ketchup that was amazing was Sir Kensington's. They literally got bought and then it was like it had like curry powder or something in it that like was a
oh,
little spicy and savory.
mm,
They got bought by like Hellman's or something else,
mm,
and they discontinued the ketchup for like these aiolis, and it drives me crazy. I had an old bottle before we moved, and Swabna made me throw it out, and I was so sad because I was just like squirting a little bit out there. But yes, both of those are overrated and not great sauces.
I mean, I will agree that they're both overutilized, right? Like, doesn't Patrick Mahomes put ketchup on his steak? Like, that's crazy. And I think the one item I mostly agree with you on the ketchup, I would say ketchup on burgers, I do still mess with, but I do think I think that's like only if there isn't other stuff available. I think there's other better suited sauces, but I don't want to
Sure.
eat I don't want to eat like a naked burger, is my point. So, um, but ranch as well, I definitely agree with. I think like I do not like the ranch pizza combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe as part of a salad, but then again, I also think there's like better dressings for salads. So I'm not gonna fight you on the ranch. The ketchup, the only thing is like, yeah, I don't want to eat a naked burger, so yes, I will put ketchup on a burger. But I do think that ketchup most naturally and is best paired with fries,
Yep.
100%. So.
Fair enough. All right. What do you got?
I don't think I've said this before. I'm also at the point where I'm like, damn, I've said so many like hot takes that like I also don't know what I remember just like telling you as like friends like over a dinner versus like on the podcast. So I don't think I've said this on the pod. So my hot take, but let me know. I can always
All
have
right.
other takes. Is uh unequivocally laugh tracks make TV shows worse and are unwatchable. Um
Yep.
I think if you and I want to be clear, like I love funny shows. Like I love The Office, right? And like I know people like swear by Friends, swear by How I Met Your Mother. I have tried to watch episodes of both of those shows. Um and to be fair, I have seen clips of the Brad Pitt episode in Friends and like damn, he was like at his peak like just like being he was just like captain of the 90s, right? Or I
Yeah.
think late 90s early 2000s. What I'm trying to say is barring clips of a Brad Pitt episode, which like it is entertaining and it's like funny. Um, I just genuinely think that like if you have to tell your audience when to laugh, the show isn't funny. Like just make the show funny and people will laugh. If I am hearing other people laugh in like some kind of weird recorded way, it kind of takes me out of the moment. It takes me out of
Yep.
the show and it makes you painfully aware you're watching a show, if that makes sense, right?
Yep.
Uh, and I also think like if you mute, and then it kind of sometimes like messes with the flow of the show because then they're having to wait for this like perceived pause of the laugh track to die so they can like continue the script, continue the thing. And again, I've like, this is not without me doing research. Again, I have watched multiple Friends episodes. I have watched, How I Met Your, like I've tried to get into How I Met Your Mother, could not do it because of the laugh track. And I just
Yep.
think like you, if your show is funny, people will laugh. If you have to tell, it's like, if laugh tracks are like me tickling you and then being like, "Damn it, I knew I was funny." It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not the same, right? So, I feel very strongly about this, clearly. And I'm anti laugh track,
I
100%.
would agree. Well, one thing I'll say is what's really funny, like just as you said with the pacing, there's like some YouTube videos where they like take the laugh tracks out, and it's like
Yeah,
so
it's
funny
awkward.
to watch because the
Yeah.
pacing is so awkward and it's like unwatchable.
Yep.
So definitely look up those videos if you haven't seen them. They're pretty funny. I will say I agree with you in all cases except one, and that is Seinfeld. Um, because I think it's so well written. Did it
Mm,
need a laugh track? No.
mm,
But I feel like between the like me growing up with it, like watching it with my family, and the fact that like I feel like Friends is like a really poorly written show
mm,
that's like least common denominator. Like, sorry if you like Friends, but like that's kind of how I feel. I feel like How I Met Your Mother is the step up of it, which I'm like, for me, like I don't like the laugh track in it at all, but it is a palatable show because I feel like there are some things where you're like, okay, like I can connect with this. And then there's like Seinfeld, which is, I think, one that's like, it's just like well written. And like I see like my twisted self and my twisted
mm.
friends being those characters and like having relatability that takes it above the laugh track, where again, would rather it not be in there, but the show I find still awesome
Mm.
because the writing style is so high. So I will give you the like, I guess the same kind of nod to mine, which is like 90% of the way, yes, 10%, no.
Fair. No, I hear you. I hear you, and I think that like, and maybe it would change if I grew up with it. I didn't, and so like laugh tracks were something I discovered like when I was in probably like high school.
Yeah.
When I was like watching TV, and yeah, just can't stand them. But I think that takes us to the conclusion. If you're still listening, thank you. This episode wound up being a little bit longer than I think both you and I anticipated, but
Whoops.
I think we had a lot to say and hopefully a lot of good stuff. So I think if you're thinking about making content of any style, to summarize these 52 plus minutes, just go for it, right? Like that sounds obvious, but um, there is literally there's no reason why you cannot be successful doing this. If you have something to say, even if it is just a remark about your day or something that you've learned, generally other people can learn from the things you've gone through. And I think we often sell ourselves short. And to be clear, there are going to be potentially like haters or people that will give negative feedback, and they're entitled to have their opinions. But I think that if you're letting the concern about people potentially not liking what you have to say prevent you from beginning your like content posting journey, I would respectfully challenge you, and I would kind of leave the um I would encourage you to like give it a try regardless. So that is my like little rant and ramble. Eric, anything you want to say to wrap up the pod?
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. Like, make it rough, make it dirty, just get it out there. That's the only way that you're actually going to be able to figure anything out. So just like get to it, even if it's not polished. Out there is better than in your brain for a year, right? And so do that, do it consistently, find your voice, and always like and subscribe and follow us. Caspian, this is going to be really rough because I'm going to add a whole laugh track to this entire episode.
You
So
all be impressed.
enjoy that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks everybody for showing up, spending some time with us. And here's another thing that I'll say: if you start making some content, feel free to ask us if our thoughts and feelings. And if you tag us or do anything, honestly, me, Caspian, we'll share it because so long as it's not like some crazy stuff or something like that.
We gotta edit. Yeah.
We'll shout you out because we're on our journey as well. It's a never ending journey. So yeah, we'll support you and help you out there.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
See ya.